All right, let's go.
Here we are again.
Back again. So this
Yeah.
time, it's actually episode 2 now.
Yeah.
So first episode is done. We went a little bit off track.
Yeah, we went
to
a
the
little off
last
track.
one. So this one is then about me, I suppose.
Yeah.
So my story isn't really as sort of intricate as yours, I
think
suppose,
so.
but because I always knew like I was half Sri Lankan, I sort of grew up being half Sri Lankan.
Yeah.
So
So yes, like this. So how did your father was not born in Sri Lanka?
no, so my grandparents, so my father's parents were both born here.
Okay.
So my aunt and my uncle
Yeah.
were also born here.
Okay.
They then migrated to Australia 1954.
1950.
So he was then born in Australia in 1958.
Yeah.
So it was just sort of after the end of the British rule.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you told me about something that was just whites allowed. Or
Well, that was in Australia at the time. There was the white only policy. Apparently. So, which meant, you really had to be sort of white.
to be there.
Yeah, to be there at the
Okay.
time. But they sort of then started to relax the rules a little bit after World War II.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit, loosened a bit. And so then that's how they were able to get in because they're Burger.
Yeah.
So it's a race of people with sort of European ancestry from the colonial sort of era
Yeah.
in Sri Lanka. So
But then and Burger could be then any country in Europe.
I think at the time it was very sort of specific between the different, because there was first the Portuguese
Yeah.
sort of era, then taken over by the Dutch,
Yeah.
then the British. So I think at that time they were very much, they liked to keep it, you're a Portuguese burger, you're a Dutch burger, you're British sort of thing.
Ah.
But then, as the time went on, they became a little bit more relaxed, as everybody sort of then just sort of come together, I suppose, and it's just under one name of sort of burger now.
But if you are Tamil and together with some from some European,
I don't think that was, that was sort of really
Not
part of it. So
happened.
the woman's side, oh no, it did, it would
Yeah.
happen, but it wasn't sort of, that didn't then dictate what type of burger, like it was the male side
Okay.
was
Okay.
the European sort of thing.
Ah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so but then after the collapse of the British rule,
Yeah.
they the country was just changing, so they thought it was time to sort of go. And then I think, as I was saying, after World War II, that sort of white only policy
Yeah.
that they had in Australia was a bit more relaxed,
Yeah.
and I think they just sort of saw it as a bit of an opportunity for something. I think they sort of felt that the then under the Sinhalese rule, they wouldn't sort of get the opportunities that they would get in a sort of a Western country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what I want to ask you about. Like, they didn't go under the colonization. They went when the colonization was falling. instead.
Well, because I
That's
think the Dutch, because, there was the Dutch period,
Yeah.
and they were sort of then in charge, and then the Brits took over, but I think there was still a lot of those similarities
Yeah.
between the two nationalities. So the
Yeah.
burgers were still held in quite high regard, and they had pretty good jobs
Yeah.
and things like that. But then when the Brits left, they were almost, as my grandfather's brother sort of put it, they were then almost put back down to the bottom
Oh.
to sort of be like, now it's our turn, now we're in charge, and you'll either conform and learn Sinhalese fluently, and you'll write in Sinhalese in order to keep your job and
Okay.
things like that, or you can basically get out. It's sort of how that sort of
There'd be
Yeah.
some kind of revenge.
yeah, exactly. So so I mean, my dad, then he was born in Australia in
Which part of Australia?
we're from Melbourne,
From
Melbourne. So, but he was born out in the country, sort of this Traralgon
Yeah.
is what it's called. So it's about 4 hours, sort of out a little bit. Then he grew up there. So then I think he sort of struggled a little bit just because it was, the late 50s, early 60s, bit of still like racism and things like that were,
Can imagine that.
and like, because grandma and grandpa were still very much Sri Lankan. So he sort of was then in that position where learning sort of Australian things and growing up in Australia, but then I guess at home it was that little bit different still with the Sri Lankan sort of
Yeah.
way of doing things. So
Yeah, because it must be kind of confusing to. It's like little like me, the adopted. I look like.
yeah, you
My-
sort of
Yeah.
blend in but
yeah,
don't, but
yeah.
then sort of blend in on one hand,
Yeah.
but then you don't really blend in on the other, and it's sort of this
Yeah.
sort of strange middle ground.
But your
Yes.
mother and father meet in Australia.
Yep.
Or
So they
abroad?
they met in Australia.
Uh.
So yeah, because my mum, so my grandparents on that side, my grandfather, he was a vet,
Okay.
like a quite very renowned vet.
Yeah.
They just grew up, or she just grew up sort of inner suburbs of Melbourne. And yeah, I think they just sort of met one time. I think it was at a train station or something, actually.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, the story was that she was trying to skip school, and then my dad was there as well. No, yeah, she was skipping school, but then she missed the train.
Mm.
So she was skipping school to then get home early, but then she missed the train anyway. And so she was like really angry. And then my dad was there, and he's like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And then yeah, apparently they sort of
Interesting.
that was with that. So yeah, so I was then born in, as I said, 1990.
You have a sister also.
Got a sister,
Older.
so one older sister,
Older.
only by it's about 1.5 years. Yeah, so yeah, so we sort of grew up then in Frankston, which at the time, Frankston was sort of an all right area
Yeah.
when I was very young, but then it really started to sort of change a little bit as the years went on. A lot of it was just a very low income area,
Yeah.
so yeah, just a lot of drugs and things like that. And so then we moved to Somerville when I was 8.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing actually happened though. Like we were there and it was okay.
Yeah.
And but then as the years went on, it sort of started to change, and then we moved back to Frankston. So
How would you say? Would you say it was different to grow up with a mixed race family? If mixed race. Is
well,
the
it's
word?
it's a funny thing because even though I've always considered myself half Sri Lankan, I'm
Yeah.
really not, in the sense like my dad, he has some Sri Lankan traits
Yeah.
and sort of mannerisms, but he's very, very much Australian. So it was kind of mixed,
Yeah.
but it wasn't sort of two separate cultures growing up. Like there wasn't a very distinct Sri Lankan father and Australian mother. Like he, although looked and is
Yeah.
completely Sri Lankan blood,
Yeah.
he still is very much Australian.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, like I always, yeah, not like you
Yeah.
in the sense of not really knowing that much about Sri Lanka. I did sort of know a bit
Yeah.
about it. I didn't really care, to be
No.
honest. Like growing up, like it would just, it didn't really interest me. It wasn't sort of pushed on us in any way. I don't think my dad really cared that much.
No.
It's just what it was. So there was no sort of real distinct, like, desperation to move here and check out the place.
No.
So-
Did you have friends that was immigrants or friends that have mixed?
Yeah, not specifically. I mean, there was kids at school,
Yeah.
I suppose. It wasn't really to the level that it is now of the
No.
immigration
Yeah.
in Australia as it was in the 90s.
No.
So, yeah, but I mean, I did have friends. Yeah, some were sort of mixed
Yeah.
and things like that, but it wasn't specifically,
No.
keep knocking that, specifically that I hung out with, mixed
No.
race kids. Or that it's just if they were, they were.
Was
So-
no reaction on Aidan has a brown father.
Yeah, nothing like that.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally I think there was comments
Yeah.
at school, but I think it was really one of those things of like, if you're in a fight with someone
Yeah,
anyway,
the perfect
then
thing.
they'll like it's like if you're in a fight, well not, but if someone's in a fight with someone who's fat
hit on
and
the
it's got nothing
parents.
to do with the
Yeah.
fight, they'll be like, oh well you're fat. Like
Yeah.
it was sort of one of those things. Just the occasional comment really, but nothing sort of. I didn't really have that real sort of issue or
But
sort
that's
of
nice.
yeah. I didn't have any kind of sort of identity crisis,
No.
I suppose, or anything like that.
But so school, because you seems to have done something very good, because you can live the life you're living here, and so on. And you also a personal trainer. Where because you hired me as a personal trainer.
Yeah, well, that's how. So, for anybody who's wondering, so we met. You were working at the gym,
Mm.
and because there's not that many gyms here, and not that much.
No.
It's not really like the fitness culture of
No.
somewhere like Thailand or anything like that. So yeah, it was just like you were running some boxing classes,
Yeah.
and that's how we sort of then
Yeah.
met. So
And that's a couple of years ago.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
And then I stopped at that place, started the other fitness, and
Yep.
then you come back like a couple of months ago now.
yeah, so I was in Thailand just doing a bit of training there, and then I just come back and sort of then got in touch with you to get back into, because I've been a personal trainer as well. So I suppose if we go back, so when I was sort of a teenager, like mid-teens, I was like 15, I started to really get into music.
Yeah.
So I was a musician. I hadn't played guitar at this point, but at about 15, got my first guitar, and just at school with a couple of friends from school, we started sort of a band. Like, I had the guitar, another guy got a set of drums, one had a bass, and so that was a bit more like sort of pop punk, like Blink 182 sort of stuff, as everybody sort of starts. Then I sort of got more into like the metal, like really metal sort of music, like heavy, like hardcore, with like the breakdowns and the fast sort of drums and all that kind of stuff. So that was sort of my thing.
Like Pantera, Sepultura.
Even a bit heavier than that.
Yeah,
So it was
wow.
a real like metal, like the like Parkway Drive sort of
Wow.
like it's real, that screaming sort of, just fast. It's more I like it because it's so much more energetic to play.
Yeah.
Like, you're playing just some chords, it's just boring. Whereas like if you're sort of shredding and everything, and people get into it a lot more. So so I was doing the music thing from about 15 to probably about 24.
Okay.
So when I was 19, I moved up to the Gold Coast. So I'm from Melbourne, which
Yeah.
is right down the south. Moved to the Gold Coast and started a band there as well. But that's much more of I was never like into fitness as a kid or anything. Like, I played tennis, but I was never like a gym sort of person. So I sort of started to get into that at about, as I said, like about 19, 20. Started to get into the gym a bit more when I was living on the Gold Coast.
Only gym, like
Just
weightlifting.
just weightlifting really. So, but not that seriously
No.
at the time. Like, I was still doing the music thing. Then I moved back to Melbourne about a year later, and then decided to do my personal training sort of course. And so I did that when I was 20. So because when I moved back, my dad wanted me to do some computer thing and all this, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And then I sort of just got the passion for the fitness sort of game from there.
What was it that from going from no training, from music, and that what was it that attracted you so much with it? Was
I
it
think-
the feeling?
Yeah, I think because even in like high school, because I was never like overweight,
No.
but I was just like very average, like, probably could do like 2 push-ups or something, just like an average sort of musician kind of kid, like. And I think I always sort of wanted to get into the fitness sort of thing, get in shape. Like, we had at home, I think we had like a barbell and some weights, and I would use it just on occasion, not knowing what I was doing at all, just very rarely. And but then it wasn't really till I moved up to the Gold Coast, and that's just a fitness sort of.
It's a surfer place.
Yeah,
also,
it's like a surf. Sort of surf fitness. That's just sort of very much like looks kind of place. So, and that's when I sort of started to take a little bit of an interest into it. I think I sort of got some dumbbells when I was there, just in my room, just doing like curls and stuff. And it wasn't then until
Classic.
just the basic sort of stuff. And then it was time to just sort of get things going with my life a little bit. I was about 20 at that point. Wasn't really doing anything except the music. Like, I was in this band up there, just really good group of guys, and that was because I've never really been into drugs, even at that time. But they would just smoke some bongs and all that, and I'd have like a little bit here and there. When I was actually, even prior to that, the band sort of prior to that, they were pretty into the drugs as well, but I wasn't. Again, same thing. Like, might just have some weed on occasion. I was more like into drinking. Like, I used to, but it was never like a problem.
No.
It was just I like to go out and party. Like, I like to from that
definitely.
age, probably like 16. Then it was probably till about 24. So when I was about 16. That's when, as I said, started the music thing. Then about 20 started the gym kind of thing as well. And that there was an overlap there. So I worked at a gym for about, after I got qualified, worked there for about 6 months.
Okay.
Super dodgy. Like a lot of these big commercial gyms, just really dodgy. They'll just tell you anything. They see the trainers.
In what way?
They see the trainers as another just source of income,
Ah.
as opposed to real like employees. Like to, well, not even though, because what you do, you'll pay sort of like a rent each week to the gym, and then you can use their facilities. You have access to their customers, and you can then try and convert them into paying clients for you as a personal trainer. But they'll tell you anything to get you to sign up, because then they're getting money out of you, and it's a difference between getting, like $10 a week from a customer, as opposed to getting like $300 a week from a trainer who's running their business, and they don't do anything, and they try and sign you up for these contracts, length of periods, and all this sort of stuff, and it's just super dodgy. So, and then I learnt a little bit from a guy that I was, because when I was there and I wasn't really getting any clients, and he was a bit older, so I was about 20, or I was 20 at this time. He was probably about 28, and then he sort of said, "Oh, come, like we'll have a chat and everything, see if we can work something out." He was another trainer there, and then we had a chat, and he knew exactly what to say. He's like, "Yeah, you can come work for me. You'll be making all this money. It'll get you in really good shit, like everything." And so, but you got to sign up with me as like a bit of a mentor, sort of thing. And I was like, all right, this sounds good. But it was just, and then he sort of taught me a little bit of how to be like a really dodgy salesperson, pretty much, because he was good at it. He was good at what he did. He knew exactly how to sort of pick at people and get them to sign up with him, basically. Like he was good at it. So I really learnt a lot of that from him, but I never really wanted to put it into place, because that's not how I am. No. Like I would rather my training speak for itself, rather than just basically trying to tell people what they want to hear to get them to sign up with you, and then take advantage. So eventually quit that gym, and then I worked at a different one, which wasn't quite as bad, because I learnt not necessarily just the things from him, but I had learnt also how to run a business by this point as well. So worked at a different gym for about 6 months, just doing my own thing, and it was okay. It was okay, that one.
Did you feel like, okay, this is something I really want to work with, and this is the road?
It was really just then the way that I was going to put it into place, how make it all happen. Because I knew I didn't want to work at a gym sort of permanently or anything like that. I wanted to do my own thing. And so I was there for about 6 months, made a bit of money. I think, when I say a bit, it was really, I think I made about $5,000 over 6 months that I'd saved. And that then, they wanted us to sign new contracts. I remember it still. And I was like, no, I'm not signing this contract, because it had some clauses in it that weren't in the old one, that weren't going to work for me, because I liked it that they didn't have. I think then they wanted us to sign up for like a year, whereas before it was just a month-to-month sort of thing, and they wanted us to sign up for a year minimum and things like that, so that you have to continue to pay even if, and I think there was then a clause that you couldn't open a gym in a certain radius and sort of things like this, and I was like, this isn't going to work. So I remember actually on the day I just said, no, I'm not. I had clients like booked for that day, and then they come in with the new contracts, and I'm like, look, I'm not signing it, and they said, well, you have to go. And so that was, so I had my clients were like there waiting for me, and I just said, I'm sorry, but they won't let me train people. So I'd saved up about $5,000, as I said, and then I used that to rent this little storage unit. And that's all it was. And it was just like a monthly sort of agreement. No, I think there was probably like a bond, like a deposit or something. It was really cheap. Just spent that money on first month's rent, deposit, a little bit of advertising, just a little bit of equipment. And from there it was just advertising, and it took off really sort of quickly, because it was very personal. Like it was probably only the size of this room. It was 40 square meters. Is what the little spot was. So then did that for a few months, and that was good. And then I got sort of some trainers. I think the first one I got a trainer, and she wanted to do work experience. which when I did my course, you didn't have to do work experience, but then they had changed it, so you did. So I said, yeah, it's fine. So come down, and I think then she started working there as well, as in just like a rental type thing. So, you know, you can pay rent and you can use the facilities, but you run your own business kind of thing. And it was really, I think it was like $100, $150 a week, which was very cheap at the time for that type of agreement, because it was a fully equipped small gym and it was very private. Then, just started getting a few more trainers. Then I moved that to a bigger gym, like a big warehouse, like 200 square meter warehouse. And then at the same time, which probably wasn't the best idea, but I was getting, you know, you get pretty excited and you want it to grow. So then I opened a second one in a different area as well, which was probably about 100 square meters. Because where I lived in Frankston, the gym was down in Mornington, which was about 15 minutes south. But I was also getting contacted by people from the sort of the area sort of north, about 15 minutes as well. So they weren't going to come all that way down. So I sort of thought, if I'm in Frankston, could have one 15 minutes below and one 15 minutes above. It was very hard though, because as I said, it was a pretty low income area where I was living. So a lot of people, they just wanted stuff for free, basically, and they would sign up, they wouldn't pay, their payments would get sort of rejected and things like that. Like they just didn't nobody had any money in this area. It was just like everybody's on sort of welfare, like Centrelink, as we say, like that's just what it is. So it was hard. And then as the years went on, I just wanted to get out of Frankston as well. Like I was sick of living in Frankston. The gym was going all right, but I was just a little bit over it at that time as well. Like I was sort of, if I had kept it at that small first one, it would have been really good. Like I was making really good money, but then because I moved it to this one and then set up this one, and it was just sort of, I was too focused on growing it big as opposed to actually making any money. So I was making less money, even though I had all these trainers working for me in these big gyms, than I was just doing my own little thing. So, it's common to do. Like by this time, I mean, as I said, I started it when I was became the trainer when I was 20. Started the gym when I was 21, and I did that till I was about 24, nearly 25.
That's impressive.
So I had it going for a few years, and it like continued run. And then, then I just sold off the equipment after a while, like when the lease ran out, and that's when then I decided, like, really pretty quickly to move up to the city, like up to Melbourne. And I had this little like bachelor pad sort of thing, and it was actually pretty good. So I was doing that. I was studying accounting, actually. So just something completely different. Started studying accounting. This little bachelor pad in the city, and I was really focusing more on like my martial arts sort of training, and not so much the gym. So I was in really good shape, and that I would say is probably the best shape that I've been in. And so this is when I was about 24, 25. So, I mean, for that year, really, I was just doing this online course, just going to the gym, and pretty much it was just like going on Tinder dates and stuff. I had this little like bachelor pad place, and it was pretty good for that. Then and I was still doing the music at this point. So from about 16, started the gyms when I was 20, but I was still doing the music, but it was a bit more of like a secondary sort of thing. So in my last couple of bands, in the first bands when I was a teenager, I was like the main sort of songwriter, the main organizer, whereas then when I had the gyms, I was a bit more of like the secondary sort of guitarist. Somebody else would write the song, and I was just sort of, it was a fun thing, and just sort of, if I liked the guys and sort of liked the vibe and playing some gigs, but it wasn't as serious as when I was a lot younger. Like the gym was my main thing. So then, when I was 25 and living in this, in Paran, so that's sort of the inner suburbs of Melbourne, I was also then doing a bit of like acoustic sort of solo stuff, and I was wanting to really get into that and like YouTube and sort of try and put that online, which wasn't very good at it. So, because the main thing that I would write and I liked was like metal still. It's just, I sort of wanted to try that because I wanted to see if I could get some money in any way, because it's a bit more mainstream. And that, I think, shows when you're not sort of doing something you're passionate about, you're just doing it a bit more for the money,
Yeah.
like, hoping so. And I wrote like and recorded some music with that as well, but it never really took off sort of in a big way. Then, so then 2016 comes. Actually, when I first then started the gym as well, so it was about 2011 then. First or so, I'd been working at the gyms. Yeah, it was around 2011, 2012. I remember my dad and his family. So my dad and his brother, his brother's actually born in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And his wife and my cousin and my grandma, they were talking about coming to Sri Lanka. So this was early 2012 by then.
Yeah.
And I was going to go as well, and I was thinking of going, but then I started the gyms literally at that same time, and I was like, look, I can't, I'm focusing on the gym. So they went, and I think he actually didn't have a very good time, just because my grandma, I mean, she's 90 now, so this was about 10 years ago, so she was about 80, and like you had to push her around in a wheelchair, and sort of, it was hard, like, just because they were going around in the van, and it was just hard, like, it was a really, it was a lot of, and they went even from, in one day, I think they went from Colombo to Trichinopoli, like in the bus, and he's not a good traveller and stuff like that, so I don't think he had that good of a time.
No.
So, but then, come 2016, he wanted to take us, so me, my mum, my sister, and myself, and like us go as the four of us. And so I never really cared that much about Sri Lanka. Like, all I sort of knew of it was just pretty much grandma and grandpa were Sri Lankan. Yeah. They talk funny, like they have the accent. Like, I remember me and my sister when we were little, like we would go to the house and it would always have that curry sort of smell. All the plates and everything white was sort of like yellow tainted from the turmeric, and just little things like that. Like, it was just sort of, but they were just like, to us it was just normal because they were just grandma and grandpa, like it was just normal. So like I didn't grow up having any real particular interest, like desperations come here, as I was saying. But then this sort of opportunity came up, and I wasn't working at this time. I'm not sure what my sister was doing. I think because my dad's been retired for a long time as well. I think my mum was sort of working a little bit or retired as well. So we sort of thought, why not come here? So at that time, so this was then 2016. So 2015 was when I was in Paran. Yeah. Had the little, and then 2016, I then moved to Collingwood. So still had like a little bachelor pad kind of thing in Collingwood. Was doing the same sort of thing, but at this time I had planned to leave Australia anyway. I just didn't know. I think what sort of started it, I sort of started to see people like vlogs. This is when like vlogging and travel vlogging was starting to become a thing. And I think I saw sort of videos of guys in Thailand. Yeah. Like these sort of like retired guys in like their 50s sort of in Thailand, whereas I was 25. Yeah. But I'm sort of like, I was getting just a bit over Australia and was sort of thinking, how can I make this happen? But I didn't really want to be just one of these people who will go for a while, a couple of months, then come back, then you have to just get a job for a few months, save up, go. I wanted to make it like a permanent thing, but I didn't want to be sort of scrounging by every time. So I sort of had to think, how am I going to make this happen? So this was before the trip here. So we came here and I was like, oh yeah, Sri Lanka's good. Like, I like Sri Lanka and everything. We had a really good time. And then, later that year, I then also went to Bali.
This is 2016.
This is 2016 now. So then later that year, so that was we were actually here for the Sinhalese New Year.
So it's April.
Yeah, April. Yeah, it was around then. So then came here just 2 weeks, just sort of traveled around, and I was like, this is pretty cool. Then, because the most common places that people go, Australians would go, would be like Bali or Thailand. They're sort of the two common ones. So then decided to go to Bali in about July, like that as well. And then went to Thailand in about October, November. And I was making a bit of money online at this time. Like, I was doing like some YouTube sort of stuff. And, but that was very fleeting. Like, it sort of, comes and goes. So I was like, all right. And I was just trying all different things. And so then I was like, how am I going to make this happen? So then I sort of, Sri Lanka made more sense to me than any of the other countries, because I'm Sri Lankan. like, you know, half
Yeah,
Sri Lankan.
yeah, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I spoke to the immigration. I was like, is there any way I can get some kind of dual citizenship in Sri Lanka? Because my grandparents were born there, and they're like, oh no, your dad wasn't born there, and he'd have to be registered before he was an adult, and then you're, and all this. And they're like, all right. I'm like, whatever. Like, I didn't really care that much at that time. So I sort of had to come up with what I was going to do. So I knew if I went to like Thailand or something, I wouldn't be able to, because I obviously had the experience with the gyms.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I went to Thailand, I can't really teach boxing or kick, like, you know, these are like
Yeah.
world champion
Yeah.
guys in Thailand, and like, what am I going to teach people? And also, it's just flooded anyway.
Yeah.
So sort of thinking that's not going to work. Same sort of thing with Bali. But then I looked here and I'm like, yeah, there's no
Nothing.
gyms. And this was 2016
Yeah.
as well. So I was like, you know, I wanted to start a gym. Didn't really have any money at this point though. So I wanted to start a gym, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I was like, if I can just get some boxing gloves and some pads, because when I used to train clients, like they would love just like the fitness boxing.
Yeah.
So I was like, don't need to worry about the weights or anything. Just get some gloves and some pads and just bring them over, and a couple of bags. And that's what I sort of did. So then I just got on a flight in January 2017, Manea. So this was then the following year, and that was that. So then I came here, didn't know what I was doing, didn't really have any money, didn't know anybody, didn't have any kind of like business lined up or anything. I just came on the flight, and I had done a little bit of research in 2016, contacted a few legal law firms, just emailing them, just asking, saying, you know, I want to start a business, like a company just teaching boxing. What's, you know, can you register it? And I knew what needed to be done to be able to register a company here. But it was more, I was inquiring to see if they knew what needed to be done, because if they didn't know, then obviously I'm not going to use. So it's a good test.
Yeah.
Like, because I had just done a lot of research, even though this was back in 2016, and this is just on the internet, and I knew. So one got back to me. A couple did get back, but I think they did that like, oh, you need to invest $250,000 and all this sort of stuff, which isn't the case.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that's wrong. So I didn't, you know, bother with them. But one said, yep, we can do that. Come in, we'll get it sorted. So yeah, I just got, as I said, on the flight, booked. My first week was in Colombo, just staying Colombo 2.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know where this is. I'm just like, it's just some room. And I get there like, because coming from Australia, you get in very late at like 11 o'clock at night. Then you got to come down to Colombo. So it's like 1 a.m. by now. Driver takes me down. I get to the place. They're like, oh, very sorry. We've given away your room. So they put me in the tuk-tuk, and they take me somewhere else, though. And then he takes me back the next day and whatever. But, so then in that week, because I was in Colombo for the week, I got my driver's license sorted. Also, I thought, like, that was just getting you get the international permit, but then you get the recognition permit, because I was staying right near there. And so I got that, and then, registered the business as well. So then, just decided to come down to Unawatuna. We didn't come to Unawatuna.
You went to Hikkaru, no?
No. When in the family sort of trip, we came down to Gaul for the day, I think, and spent the day in the fort. But I'd never actually been to Unawatuna. And I think I was just looking sort of online at the main touristy spots. And it was between Hikkaduwa and Unawatuna. And I'd read that Hikkaduwa was a little bit more party sort of thing, drugs and that, whereas Unawatuna is not quite to that extent.
It's more family.
So I sort of thought, you know, I'm not here to party. Unawatuna is is what it is. So registered the company, and then that week finished. So I just got the train down with all my stuff, and I think I just booked a room just in Unawatuna for a couple of nights, just to figure out what I was going to do. So I was there for probably about 3 nights. Then at that place where I was, one of the guys, because I was just saying, you know, I need something a bit more long term, and then one of the guys said, oh, like, my friend has a place, you can stay there. And I was like, all right. So I didn't know anything of it. didn't know where it was, and then it turns out it was in Talpay, which was it was all right still.
Yeah.
So yeah, then I stayed there for the first month again, just sort of. And at this point, I wanted to buy land. I didn't want to rent anything. I think I had about $15,000, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna buy some block of land. So I think I went around a little bit with like tuk drive because I didn't care at this point. Like I was just like, I'm done with renting. I'm done with Australia. Like I want my own sort of little place where I can teach the boxing. Only has to be like 5 perches or something, small, and I can set it up, and then it's just mine. Didn't know anything about I sort of did know about the foreign owned sort of thing and all that, and so I was like, yeah, I'll just get some local partner and all this sort of stuff. So I was looking around a little bit, but then it just wasn't going to happen. So I then. Yeah, just on this Ickman. Yeah, I think I just found a house, and that was in Mahiripenna, so right near the dog care clinic. Yeah, and it was a house there. So then, yeah, it was just this little rundown sort of local house, and so I was there at the time, and then I just got him to put a concrete slab out the back, put some posts in the ground, and then he put like a coconut beam. Yeah. To hang the bags, and I was like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. And he said, oh, coconut beam, it'll never break, and then it broke eventually. So so then I just did that and I was just sort of exploring the area mainly as well. It was just sort of a completely different lifestyle. Like I had a few people come and sort of for the boxing, so I actually had a couple of people, and my mum sort of painted a sign on the wall, and so I did that for 2017. Then, so I found out, there's a lawyer sort of in Gore, and because I was trying to, even though I'd registered the business, I was trying to work out how to get this residence visa from the business and everything as a director. So I went and saw him, and he told me that about the dual citizenship, and that's how I didn't know, because I said to him, because it was just in talk, and he's like, oh, it's odd, like, 26, you're just like single guy by yourself. Why have you picked Sri Lanka? And I said, oh, well, like, because I always just sort of said my dad's Sri Lankan, even though he's actually not. But he's like, oh, why don't you just get dual citizenship? It'd be much easier. And I said, I asked at the immigration, they said you can't get it, and he said, no, that's not the case. That's not true. So I was like, okay. And then from that, as soon as I found that out, I was like obsessed, like, with getting it. Like, I just wanted to get it, and there was like, because I think I'd spoken to a few people, and people would always say, oh yeah, it's really hard, you can't get it, it's really hard, and I just wanted to get it, and just to be like, yeah, like, I've got it and nobody else does. Like, it's because it's hard even for people who were born here. And so I was like, it was just a challenge. So the end of 2017, I closed the business because I was sort of like, I'll wait to get the citizenship. Like, there's no point sort of doing something, because I didn't want to then be paying for, because I wasn't making any money anyway. I didn't want to be paying for like visas, registration of like a company and all that as a foreign person, and all that. It just wasn't worth it to me. I was making like less money than what I was spending, and so then the end of 2017, I went back to Australia. My parents owned a house that my grandparents were living in, and my grandpa had died in 2012, which is a shame, because I would have liked to have like spoken to him. But so then my grandma wanted to then be put in a home because she was like old now, and so I went back and we sort of renovated the house and then sold it. And so I was there, and then we came back. Actually, yeah, because then they were sort of like, I went and spoke to the immigration, and I actually spoke to the minister, like himself, and he was like, no, you can't, like, you won't be able to get the dual citizenship. I think that there was sort of some misunderstanding as to what I was saying, though, because I think because I took him my dad's certificates and that, and I was saying, would my dad be able to get citizenship with these, because it was like my grandparents' birth certificates. And I'm like, is this sufficient for my dad to get the citizenship? Then I'll get it after that. But I think he thought I meant, is this sufficient for me to get it? So, and he's like, no, like, because he's like, was your dad registered? And I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, then, no, it won't happen. And so then at this time, and I was like really frustrated as well, because I've been trying to get this thing in, like, happen Sri Lanka, like you're trying to get anything done. So that's when I sort of took a break and went back and then worked on this house. Then I came back with my, no, yeah, and it was just really a real coincidence. There was a Sri Lankan restaurant that opened up right near where my parents lived, because I was just staying with them then and then we lived in this house that they were renovating. Oh, that we were renovating. Lived in that, but otherwise I was just staying with them in their house. And this Sri Lankan restaurant just appeared out of nowhere. And so we would go in and eat there regularly, and then we were just talking to the guy about getting the dual citizenship, and he was saying that he was getting his, but he was actually Sri Lankan, and he's been in Australia for like 10 years. So I think he was getting it for him or his son or something. And then he was like, we can sort of help you out, speak to this sort of lawyer, and he's done it before. And I was a bit sort of skeptical, but yeah, over the years he sort of helped and everything. And I mean, I had to sort of do it's a long process. But then I sort of came back with my dad and submitted the documents for him to get it first, and then it's sort of working with this guy as well, and just doing sort of the legwork and everything over the years. It sort of happened. So
how long did it take total?
So by the time I submitted, when we first submitted the documents, I mean 2017 I don't really count because I didn't actually know what I was doing at that point anyway. No. So it was September 2018, submitted the very first documents. Then it was all done, for my dad's and everything. And then I received my certificate. So everything was done mid-2021. So it was about 3 years to do two, both of which weren't even born in Sri Lanka. So it's actually, it's not that, I've known people, I know somebody else who, he's been at it for over 3 years just to get his done, one person. So I don't know how I think it's been crazy times and just crazy times, and with all the economic stuff, and it's just
I need to try to get mine. That's something.
It makes it definitely a lot easier. Just sort of, to me, it just takes the pressure off. So, but I think for you were born here, because there's two sort of steps to it. The first step is the long, drawn-out one. The second step is a lot easier, and you only have to do the second step because you've got a Sri Lankan birth certificate and you were sort of registered here. So, and I think then I was just sort of done with Australia is really what it was. I just didn't really see much of a future. It's too expensive as well. I just couldn't really be, and the culture has sort of been changing there. It just doesn't really sort of resonate with me. It's just, I just needed a change, to be honest, and it's worked out pretty well, I suppose, in the long run. I mean, and because I was always sort of a real quiet kid that would sort of keep to myself. I think I sort of had a lot of resentment because I do feel I was taken advantage of a lot growing up. People would see that as a bit of a weak, sort of an easy target. So, I think then, just as the years went on, I was just fuck these people, I've sort of done, and I'll show them sort of thing, and that's a bit what it was. And so then I moved here, didn't really have any money, and you just sort of work hard and keep at it, and eventually it's sort of, now I look at it and I'm like, well, because worked out in the end.
Wherever we get our inspiring feeling of we need to change something, that's a good thing. And you are a quite silent person. But that's the thing with people. Sometimes they take advantage of people that.
They do. And I mean, at the same time, I probably put myself in that position anyway. I was sort of, if you're not gonna stand up for yourself, nobody else is gonna. No. So if you're not gonna respect yourself, then
it's a learning process through life, and it's just. You have to take those burns to understand it.
And I think I sort of learnt that you don't need to be the loudest person anyway. No. And I like being someone who just sits back and I just sort of watch and everything. I don't need to be that loud person to still be have a lot going on for myself and everything. a lot of people will sort of do that as a front
Yeah.
to almost make it seem as if they're really confident
Yeah.
and they know what they're doing. Whereas for me now, after all these years and having done all these things that I've done here, and sort of, you know, the house, the citizenship, learning the language, sort of business stuff, investing in this, investing in that, like learning all these things.
Yeah.
It's I don't need to do that anymore.
No.
I don't have anything to prove.
Yeah.
And I think it's even sort of like with things like boxing, for example. Like I think when I was younger, and I'd like to spar hard. Like you know, I had no problem like really getting hit and hurting someone, and that like it didn't faze me.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot. I sort of had something to prove, almost. Whereas now I don't have that, and I just not like I don't have that sort of urge to sort of really hurt someone.
No.
When we're sort of sparring it, like I just don't want to. It's just not there. But I think it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
think,
just sort of I've got nothing to prove to anyone or myself because I've done all these other things, which are far more important. I
Yeah.
think anyway. So
no, I think that's it. That growing is same with me. When I did track and field, I always want to be best.
yep,
And so on. Like these days, example, when we're doing a lot of burpees,
yep,
of course I don't like to give up, but I wouldn't feel like that I would be worse than everybody. I can't just do it, right?
yeah, yeah,
And be happy for the other people that do it. And then the same for me with boxing these days. It's I love the sport,
yep,
but for going hard and things like that, is no reason for me because how many times I've been in a fight since I was in my 20s?
yeah, exactly.
Like
yep.
never.
Yep.
Like
You don't sort of feel the need to be like prepared
No.
almost. So yeah.
I have knife.
Yeah, well that's the thing. No matter how good at boxing you are, it's sort of there's always ways around that.
Yeah,
So-
but it's also this this continuous hitting on the head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And I can't handle it anymore. And
Yeah.
I don't think if I was going for a competition, and if that was my profession, of course,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where the money comes in.
Yeah.
But for just keeping me fit, I like to spar here and there.
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
soft
yeah. And just sort of keeping it light. Like
yeah,
because I've also found if you're worried that you're gonna get like knocked out, it's not
Yeah.
even then real sparring.
no,
Like because then you're just swinging and everything, and you
Yeah.
can't really think about what you're doing, and it takes the sport away from it, and it just becomes a fight
yeah.
sort of thing.
No,
whereas,
what I like with the keep on the sparring going is because the reflexes.
Yeah,
And
exactly,
And,
yeah.
and knowing the distance.
Yep.
Because if I've been gone from boxing for a while, it takes a couple
Yeah,
of
it does,
jabs
it does, yeah.
before oh shit, I can't be here.
yeah,
And
I
can't be
find
there.
just that sort of mental thing of actually getting hit.
Yeah.
As well. At first, it's sort of just those normal like reflexes
Yeah,
that are sort of instilled in you to to turn your head away or
Yeah.
to block like this, which is just that's normal, but you have to then retrain
yeah.
the brain. So
And also this feeling to be in a situation where it's only me.
yeah,
It's,
exactly.
It's
Yep.
when it's big when surfing.
Yep.
It's no fucker gonna save me.
Yeah.
It's
yep.
nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
nobody. It's no
Yep.
jet skis. It's nobody. It's just me, my board, my leash. Go. Nobody gonna swim out and get me.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, you sort of
nobody. They are
Yep, gotta-
okay.
look out for yourself.
Yeah.
So.
And when you're in that, what I like with martial arts and I like with surfing and same, I'm a sucker when it comes to golf because it's this mental part.
Yep.
It's just you. You can't
Yeah.
blame anybody else.
Yep.
It's you that haven't trained enough.
Yep.
You haven't been in the situation. You didn't do right. You was not focusing on the right thing,
Yep.
and you fucked it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
And
yep.
you
yep.
can't blame anybody.
Yep.
It's just you. And when you are in that position, you grow so much as a person.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, that's even moving here. Like I don't know how you've sort of felt, but for me, for a lot of it, I've felt it's like it's just me.
Yeah.
Like I got to deal with this by myself,
Yeah.
and it's good. And I feel that it like the years from 26 to now 33 have been so much just growth
Yeah.
and just development in so many different ways, like just mental sort of development. Just to know that like if there is a major thing to deal with, I can deal with it.
Yeah.
I can do it. I've done it. I've done all these things that a lot of people haven't.
And that's the thing, because I felt the same also, like, what the fuck I'm doing? I'm here alone. How am I gonna? And you growing up in Australia, I'm growing up in Scandinavia. If something goes to hell, you can just
you could
ask for help.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and everything is gonna be fine, or
Yeah.
you just call somebody or whatever. But here is just, okay, this is on my shoulders now.
Yep.
I need to sort it out.
Yeah.
And I had some pretty hard relapses here.
Yeah.
When I just
It's hard and scary sometimes, and you sort of got to be like, and it's just frustrating, and you don't know who to turn to, and you're just here by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, obviously, you know, well, actually, I don't even know, like with like an ambulance or something, like something like that. Will it, like, I don't know anything about that.
I was thinking.
I know the number.
I was thinking that yesterday night when I was on my way to put on the lights. If a fucking snake bites me now, and I have no idea what a snake it is, where do I
Yeah,
call?
exactly. I know. I think that, and even sometimes at night, I'm like, yeah, if something happened, what's gonna happen? So
Yeah,
it's
But I think it's 119 to the ambulance here.
it's 1990. So 1990. 199. I know that because it's the birth year. 1990.
In 1990.
Yeah.
9090.
No, what? So 1990.
1990. What a kind of weird number that
I
is.
know.
Okay, that's good to know. Because I've been thinking about that sometimes, but I just, I'm alone, or I get sick, or I'm really sick, or something happen, or.
I know. I think about that as well.
Yeah.
So.
But yes, but then I fuck it. When it happens, it happens. I
Yeah.
sort it out.
Yep.
And another thing, I was just walking one day, and a coconut just fall down behind me in my garden. If that hits me, I'm fucked.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, I think is that real about the coconut deaths or something?
I
It's
don't
more,
think.
or it's a bit of a.
I think that's yes,
sort
that's
of-
saying.
I reckon it'd probably break your neck
Yeah,
more than anything. So
because it's over 5 meters
yeah.
up, and,
some
and
of
they're
these trees,
heavy.
yeah, some of these trees are.
You can crack the skull on
Yeah,
you and
yeah.
die of that. That's
Yep.
for sure. But back to the personal growth that you have when you put yourself out from the comfort zone. If it's so martial arts, sports, or just getting into a new area of your life,
Yeah.
or moving to another country
Yep.
where you have no idea, you don't really speak the language.
Exactly.
It's humbling, and it's so good.
Yeah. Oh, it is. There's growth is very important. I mean, even little things like filming like little videos and that.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
we're doing at the moment, it's something new. So, but it's good. So
And another thing that it was so interesting, before we start the podcast, you showed me the from your relatives where
Yep.
and the funny thing in this paper, Aidan showed me that is it your grandfather?
no, it's it'll probably be about 7 or 8 generations.
And 7 generation back, this man he showed me in the paper is born in the same damn town in
Towns,
Sweden
I know.
where I grew up.
Yeah. Well, it's funny as well because in the video, the last videos, you would have like you were adopted.
Yeah.
So my mum was adopted.
You see,
as well.
so-
It's just all, and my dad's Sri Lankan, sort of.
Yeah.
But not, and it's like Swedish Sri Lankan.
Yeah.
So it's just.
There's so
just
many
a-
similarities
I know,
in
it's
there.
just
But
really-
when I saw
and the boxing as well.
Yeah,
I know. but
that
it's-
also, and
it's-
fitness.
Yeah. So.
But
it's-
when I saw that Kalmar in this paper,
Yeah.
what is an interesting connection.
Yep. It is. Yeah. It's.
I want to get more into how much have we done?
So we're at 55.
55. So we need to do a second part, because I
Well,
want
definitely.
we want to go, and I think that's good for the younger listeners also, because you've done a pretty good job with more than a pretty good job with this gym to really from a personal training just getting into the business,
Yep.
starting up gyms and so. And I think that could be a very interesting topic.
I think a lot of it as well is almost it's good to not really know what you're doing because you don't know then the limitations of it.
Yeah.
Like coming here.
Yeah.
I just did it. I just got on a plane and I'm here because
Yeah.
I didn't know, like there was nobody there to tell me that it wasn't really a good idea
Yeah.
to do it a certain way. If you don't actually know anything about it, then you just do it
how it's
how it sort of makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Because nobody in my family runs businesses, anything like that. So I was just like, this just
went
seems,
for it.
just went for it, and it was and I think because I like it when I would sort of go to the bank or discuss things. Like back then, I liked it how they're like, "Oh, you're very young to have your own business." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So,
but it's interesting because it must be so much learning values you got. The value.
I think it's one of those things that's really just in you.
Yeah.
Like even with the music, prior to that, so I wanted to start my own business when I was like 15, which I it doesn't really count, but I used to record like friends' bands and stuff and record my own bands, and I wanted to make a business. That's how I got it's not this microphone, not that one of the other ones I got that when I was 16, because it was it's a really good just guitar amplifier microphone, and that's like I wanted to set up a little studio, and I sort of did. I had this little it was actually like a cassette sort of thing and recording and that, and I was always sort of the guy who like Aiden will bring his cassette thing and we can record it when we're rehearsing and that, and other friends' band. Because how it would work, there's sort of these places, they're in sort of industrial sort of estates, I suppose, and generally they'll rent it or whatever, and they'll convert all these rooms into acoustically treated sort of rooms. So you just you'll hire one for 6 hours. Maybe there's 10 rooms or something, and you'll just hire one, and you and your band will just be in that room, so that you don't have to rehearse at home because it's noisy and that. So, but then you get to know all the other bands as well that are rehearsing at the same time, and it was sort of always like, Aiden's got his thing, he can record you, and because then that was back in the days of MySpace. MySpace was big, and so you want to put demos up as regularly as you can and sort of things like that. So I think it's just one of those things you just sort of you have it, or you're just born with it in a way.
I think so also, because if I compare my mind at your mind, my mind was, I'm gonna grow weed and selling a hell lot of cannabis. And the money I got for travel to Sri Lanka for the first time 2007, I just went and got half kilo of hash and sold that off, and then
that's how you had the money.
That's how I had the money. And it's for me, I grew up with parents that have their own company, but I couldn't see the. Okay, they have money and we always have cars and all this, but I never saw the pleasure, because I just saw it's just hard work, and nobody is happy.
See, even if I'm not making that much money from a business, if I'm enjoying it, I don't even care. Whereas it's the same sort of. I mean, my dad is the complete opposite. He couldn't understand why I'd want to run a business. He was very much. He did the same job and worked for the same place for 40 years.
Well, that's a lot.
So that was just
him, that's a mindset.
And we had a lot of issues as I was a teenager, getting old, because I'm not going to work. He wanted me to work where he works, or where he worked. He's like, I can get you an apprenticeship there. You'll do that, and that's fine. I'm like, I'm not. I'm becoming a personal trainer. And he wasn't happy. And even with the music sort of thing, because I was always one of these kids though at school. There'd be always that weird kid who would be, say you're in grade 3, and there's that weird kid who's just off in the corner doing the grade 5 work because they're the smart kid. I was always that kid. So even from probably 8 years old, I would always question my parents. I'm like, why are you sending me to school? It's a waste of time. I would say I'm not learning. It wasn't even just the normal sort of things of, when you become a teenager and you're fuck this. Even when I was 6, 7, 8, I'm like, this is just this is a joke. I always would say I'm smarter than all the teachers, which maybe I was, maybe I wasn't, but I was just always like that, always. And I would, always just off doing the other work. When I got to high school, up until about year 9, it was the same thing. But then that's when I got into the music, stopped caring, because I'm like, I can't be bothered with this anyway. And that's when my grades sort of really declined, because I just didn't do any work. I would get home, because I'm very much someone, if I'm focused on something, I will dedicate 100% of my time to that. So I'd go to school, walk home, get home about 4 o'clock, and I would just play my guitar till like midnight. I wouldn't do any homework, didn't care about it at all. So then my grades, declined after that. Then I just passed year 12 because I just didn't even care. And but I've studied things since then as well. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, some people will tell you that school is a good idea. Some people, I got my opinion on it. That's
I
what
think
it is,
it's
so.
because all people are different, but the school is the same.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's what it is. It
yeah.
doesn't sort of, because there used to be all different types of schools. Like my dad went to a tech school, but they don't have those in Australia anymore. So I don't know. It's very much a one size fits all type approach with schools, whereas there'll be certain kids who are better at certain things than other things. And I think it like the interesting thing with fitness as well for me, like with school, then I was just naturally gifted with things like maths and English and like just that I just was. It's just what it was. But then when I got into the fitness game,
what's the opposite?
It's the opposite. I've never been. I'm not someone at all who's genetically gifted in that at all. Like whereas, and I mean, everybody can get in really good shape. Everybody can, like it is possible. But I don't think anybody can deny there are certain people who it's naturally
and have it easy for sports and so on.
Yeah. So when I was at school, and I used to I couldn't understand how certain kids couldn't understand certain things. Yeah. Like we're doing maths, and I'm like, how do you not get that this times this is like? How can you not understand it?
Yeah.
Like how? And they just couldn't. And but then going over to that, I'm like, okay, like it's still, and it's like someone, if I've known guys who've never gone to the gym, they'll just start benching like 100 kilos. Yeah. They'll it's just, whereas I've never even benched 100 kilos. Like it's just, it's just completely like some people it's just, and then they could say, you're weak. Like how could you not? It's just like I work hard. I don't know what to say. So it's interesting sort of then, because I didn't really think anything of it at the time, but then those years later, I was sort of like, all right.
Tables turn.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's good though, I think, because then that's something that I really like with the fitness sort of thing, because it is something that I'm not naturally gifted at. So then to get it to a certain point does take a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so I know I've put in a lot of work. Whereas other things, when you're just good at it, you can't really, you take it for granted, I suppose, is what it is. So.
But that's very interesting, because I'm the opposite. I was very good at sports and everything.
Yep.
School, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Math,
Yeah, I was always like right up the top with all those in primary school, especially. Like, and I didn't even try either. It was just what it was. So, and I always felt, I'm just smarter than all the teachers. I just which I wasn't like an arrogant kid or anything. That's just what I thought. That's just how I felt, and I'm like, why am I here? So, sort of.
That's interesting. I want to do a episode 2, but part 2 also.
Yeah. Well, okay. So episode 2. Part 2, so.
Because I want to dive a little more.
Well, what up? Yeah, we're a bit over an hour now. So yep.
Because I want to dive in a little more in your business mind.
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting thing, because we are very opposite there.
Yep.
Very, very how we're thinking and everything, and for me it's very interesting to listen to how that life.
I think for me, because it's sort of a hobby in the sense, like I just like business, like it's something I enjoy anyway. Like I wouldn't start a business necessarily because I was like desperate for some money.
No.
I started it because I like starting it, like I like doing it, and their business is very similar.
Yeah.
Most businesses are pretty similar. It just depends on what you're actually selling, I suppose. Really, like that's what a business comes down to. So it's interesting just how similar it actually is, regardless of the industry. It's sort of then just different in what it actually is that you're trying to offer people is what really changes. But the actual structure of how you go about it is going to be similar regardless of what you're selling to
it's
people.
It's need to be feeded in one way or another, which business it is.
Yep.
But to understand that also.
Well, I was always just like, even when I had jobs as a teenager, I had a couple of jobs. I worked at like Coles, which is just like some supermarket. Worked at Woolworths, which is just some supermarket. I think it was at the register. Then I was packing the shelves. Then I worked at a warehouse when I was about 18 for a couple of months, and I just knew it was never going to happen.
No.
It just never. Yeah, it was 100%. Like I always, like I would rather just like live under a bridge, literally, than just be a part of that. Like it's almost like it would stress me out as well. Like I found it very stressful. Like having like and just knowing I have this schedule.
Is
this
this the same feeling you felt like, why do I do this in school?
Nah,
Like
in school it was more like, yeah, this is just boring and a waste of time.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, I think then when I had the jobs, it was just I don't know what it was. It was just knowing that I couldn't relax. Like say if say today, if it's like, I get up in the morning and then I've got work at like 4:00.
Yeah.
That whole day I'd just be on edge, like just waiting. I'm sort of just waiting, like got to go to work. Don't want to go to work. I just didn't want to do it. Like it was just sort of, and so I knew that I would have to come up with some way to sort that out. And it's just, like it just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. Had to do something a bit different. So with people, and I mean, look, everybody's entitled to live their life how they want.
And that's I think is the thing, that the opportunities are there.
Yeah.
And the life you want to live, some roads takes longer time, some shorter time, but nobody else will do it for you.
Exactly,
that's
and that's what you sort of, as soon as you learn that,
and
like really learn that, that's when things sort of start to fall into place, or you'll know one way or the other if you've actually got it in you to do it.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of people probably don't, and that's fine. A lot of people like that sort of consistency. They just go to work. They don't really have to think about it too much.
Yeah.
And then they finish, and then that's it.
Yeah.
It's sort of done. So, and I mean, that's not to say that I think running a business and doing all those sort of things is more stress. Like it's far more stressful, but it's a stress that I feel that I'm, like growing with something. Like I'm doing something more productive. Whereas
but you invested your time in your dream.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't
rather
invest
than
your
somebody,
time in some other.
Like even like, and I know, say if I'm making like $20 an hour in a job.
Yeah.
No matter how hard I work, I'm getting that $20. Really, unless I get fired or something.
Yeah.
So to start with, who's really going to be working that hard if they know they're getting paid anyway?
Yeah.
And secondly, if you know that you're not going to be making any more than that, why would you put in that extra amount? Yeah. Whereas if it's my business, nobody cares more about their own business than themselves. And that's what I've sort of realized when I had these trainers working for me at the gym, because, God, so many times, just people just don't care. They're just like, and being in that area as well where I was living, just like unreliable sort of people, and they just really didn't care. And they would come to the gym expecting me to do all the work for them, and sort of things like that. And it's just, it was a learning curve. But when you get your head around that nobody's going to work harder than you at your own business, and if you're not going to put in the effort, and I look back at that business, and I think it did well, but there's so many things that I even look at now that I could have done so much better, which is good, because as well as it did, it's like it's sort of interesting that when I tell people, they're like, Dragonfly just landed on the mic. When I tell people are impressed, but I look at it and I'm like, no, I know I could have done so much more as well. Like maybe I think it was maybe a confidence thing. Like I wasn't in the best shape because I was drinking a lot when at that time, when like 20 to 25, I was just partying heaps because I was still in the band sort of stuff. And a lot of times when you would play gigs, you get free beers. Yeah. And so they'll just they'll give you a rider. And the style of music that I would play, say there was like 8 bands, for example, on the set list sort of thing. There was this thing in Australia, it was called straight edge. Mm-hmm. So they'll draw like X's on the back of their hands, and it means there's no promiscuous sex, no drugs, no alcohol, no, like all these things. Yeah. And that was very much a hardcore metal type thing. It was in the metal scene, it was in the hardcore scene, this straight edge. So there was a lot of bands that you would play with, and they would be straight edge. So say they would give you like a rider of a slab of beer, so like 24 beers or something, and each band, but half of the bands are straight edge. So then you just drink all their beers as well. So a lot of time, like we'd play pretty drunk sometimes. Like it was good. So, but yeah, I think I was drinking a lot at that time, and because when I was on the Gold Coast, so I had this. We would go down to Byron Bay, and I would smoke like a little bit of weed, but then I would get like I think I was telling you in the last video that I would get like the bad sort of trips, and everything. So then I went to because I didn't really know what it was, because it was like this panic attack type thing.
Yeah.
But then that started to sort of like cross over just into normal day-to-day life. It would start to happen a little bit. And I would go to the doctor, and they're like, they do all these things, and they just say they didn't have a clue. One was saying, that you have, what was it? Some kind of like epilepsy type thing, which it was, someone's like, you lack iron. And I couldn't really explain it. And then one is like, you're just like stressed out, just take these tablets. And it was these, they were just sort of, I suppose they were just like antidepressants, really. And so I was taking these, and I didn't realize that they make you gain a heap of weight as well. And so like I didn't think anything of it, and so I'm just like taking them and that because they just tell me to take them. And so then I was like fat from that and the alcohol as well combined at the time as a trainer. So I mean I wasn't like obese or anything, but I wasn't looking the way I should, or that I would have felt comfortable wanting to really push my business even further, particularly online. Yeah. Because that's when the online thing was just starting to take off a little bit. Yeah. And I would have liked to have, I really wanted to do it, but I was just like self-conscious with that as well. So, which is, again, it's like a learning thing, but I feel that if I had have put in, because I did make a lot of content, but I wanted to make more, if I'm going to do something, I like to do it like full on. Yeah. So, and that was one thing that was sort of holding me back at that time. So, wait and see though. So,
interesting. So, we need to save something for the next.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much the same as yours. Yeah. Your last one was, so.
It's perfect.
113. I think last was 114. So.
It's perfect.
All right, so that's.
Thank you for your story.
No, it's only. I think that's pretty much. Yeah, we'll see. We'll delve into it a little bit more next time. Wait and see what else comes up. So, but that's, as I sort of said at the start, you've had this sort of story, like it's been a big part of your life. Yeah. For your whole life. Yeah. Whereas for me, it's really just a part of it. Yeah. I guess the last since I was about 25. Yeah. Is when it sort of became I didn't even think anything of it. No. Prior to that, it was just grandparents are Schwank
and here we are with the dual citizenship.
Yeah.
And you have it before me.
Yeah, so I know. Yep. So I have it before a lot of people. I don't actually know. I don't know anybody. Oh no, I know one guy who he has dual citizenship. It's Jihan. He has the fusion, the in Marissa. Like the fusion Muay Thai. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's got you. Yeah, nobody else do I know who wasn't born here. Yeah. Or even people who were born here. I don't really know anybody else. So
I've been being lazy on that part. I need to do it now. Yep. So okay.
All right. Well then, we'll get back to it.
Yeah.
Next time.
Do we do?
All right.
And a dragonfly also.